One Piece, Chapter 5, The King of the Pirates and the Master Swordsman.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, brothers and sisters, once again to the nation, Jim's Nerd Nation. I, of course, am Jim, and I'm here to do a review on One Piece, Chapter 5. Chapter 4, left us off at the end there with Luffy kind of overshooting his mark. He winds up knocking over Captain Morgan's statue. He's now an enemy of the state and very much so hated by Captain Morgan and, of course, his subordinates. He grabs Helmeppo, Captain Morgan's son, and card-carrying member of the Lucky Sperm Club, because he wants to grab him, pull him into the fortress, and we presume because he knows where the swords are, where Zoro's swords are. So the chapter had left us with Zoro, having a little bit of a talk with Coby there, and looks like Kobe's going to free him, and that's where we're left off. So the chapter picks up exactly right where we left off, which is certainly great, and we have a rather funny scene and exchange of Luffy. He's holding Helmeppo hostage and basically just kind of slapping him around, and he's running him down the halls, and he says, where are Zoro's swords, and he says, well, they're in my room, and where's that, Luffy says, and he says, oh, we passed it a ways back, so he pats him in the head and says, why the hell didn't you tell me, So anyway, as that happens, he goes in, and behind him a bunch of the naval officers, the guards, appear, and they say, stop or we'll shoot, So Luffy grabs Helmeppo, turns him around, and puts him in front of him as a human shield. And just the reaction and the look on Helmeppo's face of, oh shit, is priceless. But he starts charging down the hallway with him as a shield / battering ram. And they're going, no, don't shoot. Anyway, a stray shot obviously winds up going off, and Helmeppo's punk ass actually gets shot, which I think is great, because he's crying, I've been shot, I'm going to die, I'm bleeding, And so at any rate, then it winds up going and cutting back to the prison yard, and where Zoro is being held, where he's tied up, and the exchange between him and Coby. And he basically tells Coby, it's okay, they're coming, all hell's broken loose, go ahead and just get out of here. I'm going to be freed at the end of the month anyway. And Coby then goes and explains to him, and to Zoro, and says, no, they're going to kill you in 3 days. I mean, he's not going to keep his word. That's what Luffy overheard, and, that's why he punched Helmeppo. That's why all hell is broken loose. So I think at that moment, and, I mean, I'm not sure, because, of course, I'm not 700 chapters into it, I think that's going to be one of the profound moments, one of those turning points where Zoro, although he may not, respect or love everything about Luffy or what he stands for, I think he has enough respect for him at that point to say, you know what, this kid's got balls. He stood up for me and doesn't even know me, because he saw something that was not right happening in the world. So I think that's pretty cool. At any rate, though, then some of the guards come out, and old Axe Hand Morgan, which I think I'm going to do a sketch of this. There's actually a really good shot of him just looking menacing with his giant lockjaw, and he's holding his arm with the axe, over his head. And there's a nice spread of that. But he comes out and basically says, "Execute him. You're going to die. Execute both of them." So right as all the guns from the firing squad are being held up, and they're about to fire, it winds up going to a several-page flashback from Zoro's past. Now, at this point, we don't know anything about Zoro except for what's been said and what's been heard. We know very little. We see that because he says, "I can't die. I still have a promise to keep," and we see through this flashback, through a series of pages and panels, that the dojo that he trained at, the sensei's daughter, who he was friends with, Kuina, I believe is how you pronounce it, Kuina, Kuina, they kind of had a rivalry going for a while, and he could beat adults left and right, but for some reason could not beat her. And of course they were always training with like the wooden swords, I'm sure. But at the beginning, it's he's losing again, and somebody says, okay, Zoro 0 and Kuina 2000, wins. So Zoro's pissed off. He goes to the sensei and complains about how he can never beat her. He then goes and challenges her to a duel with real swords, and she says, hey, your funeral, So the battle is kind of over before it starts. He's bested and has a sword sticking in the ground right next to his head, and she says, that's 2001. So then they go into this little talk where you can tell that they have respect for each other, but he hates it that he cannot beat her yet. And she says, hey, listen, you want to be a great master swordsman. That's your dream. So we see the parallels at that point from him being a young child. He wants to be the greatest swordsman that ever lived. We see the parallels between that and Luffy, of course, wanting to be the greatest pirate who ever lived. But aside from that, it's a little bit profound the way they talk and have this conversation, because she says, hey, listen, it's okay. I'm soaking it up now, because when I get older, I'm not going to be able to. Women get weaker as they get older. So I may be strong enough now, but as I get older, you're going to be able to beat me. And he says, I don't want to beat you just because you get older and weaker. I want to beat you because I'm better. I believe I'm better. And then and I love the exaggerated way that some of the things are drawn in this style. It's great, because there's a shot of her from the side holding her chest, like this, and she says, "But I'm already getting breasts," and which I just thought was comical. So at any rate, they wind up going. They talk for a few more minutes, and Zoro goes and says, "Hey, listen, let's make a promise to each other that one of us will both work very hard, and one of us will become the greatest swordsman that ever lived." And I thought that was kind of cool and touching and a heartfelt moment. Anyway, and then in the very next page, in the very next panel, they're calling Zoro down, and they say, Kuina, tripped and fell down the stairs, and she's dead. And you're thinking, are you kidding me? Wait, she's dead. And Zoro goes, and his first thing he says is, she can't be. She just made a promise to me yesterday that we're going to be the greatest. One of us is going to be the greatest swordsman that ever lived. So at any rate, that's kind of where the whole reason he went into that flashback is that at the moment of him having a gun to his head, having this firing squad on him, that's what he thought about, is that I have not yet fulfilled my promise. She's died, and of course when she does and he comes to that realization, he promises to her corpse that he is going to become the greatest swordsman that ever lived, and that even the heavens will know about him. And I'm assuming because she's died and she's gone to heaven, so she'll be looking down on him and she'll be able to see that he's fulfilled that promise. So anyway, then nearing the end of the chapter, it cuts back to to that firing squad and Captain Morgan giving the order to fire, and then Luffy sees what's going on. He's up in the tower in Helmeppo's room. Helmeppo has passed out because he is a giant pulsating vagina. He's passed out from the pain. And I shouldn't say that, though, because nobody, I think, would enjoy being shot. But nonetheless, he really is just a big, smelly pussy. But he's passed out from the pain. And Luffy sees 3 swords, doesn't know which one is Zoro, so he grabs all 3. He looks out the window, and he sees what's going on. And he pulls his signature move, his Gum Gum Rocket, and goes, and that's like a slingshot. He goes firing himself, out the window. And at the last moment, as the firing squad is pulling the trigger, kind of stretches himself out. And of course, being flexible and rubbery or whatever the case is, he's bulletproof. And he exclaims, I can't be hurt with bullets. And the chapter winds up ending just after that, because he goes and says, don't you know who I am? I'm going to be, the best pirate that ever lived, or the greatest pirate that ever lived. So all in all, I think it was a pretty good action-packed chapter. We're getting, deeper here. And again, I mean, it's only 5 chapters in, and I understand that there's 700 plus. But the characters are really starting to shape up over here, and I certainly enjoyed it. So let me know what your thoughts are on this chapter, and of course on my rendition, my rambling, and my review of the chapter in the comments down below. Make sure to like, to comment, again, to subscribe if you haven't. And thank you once again, brothers and sisters of the nation. We'll catch you in the next one for Chapter 6.
Thank you once again, brothers and sisters of the nation, for watching another one of my videos. Please subscribe and join the nation if you haven't already, and if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, you can click either the one on the left or the one on the right. Again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.